Hey everybody, how you doing? So I'm going to try to make a video on how to do the virtual Xbox 360 controllers out of an iPack. So basically, as you know, iPack sends keyboard controls to the actual machine. So what I do is I install this application called the Vjoy, and I'm going to show you that in a second. So I have these two, it installs these two virtual game controllers right here. I have an application here that enables and disables the virtual controller. One enables, so I'm going to enable it, and you're going to see these two devices, these two game devices right here, game controllers, enable. So if I click on this, enable controller, both these game controllers will enable silently. And if I disable them, it'll shut them down. So what I do is the enable controller right here loads up Vjoy, which is this right here. I'm going to show you that application. So Vjoy gives you virtual joysticks. Now, for instance, this is my joystick number, my virtual joystick number 1. This is set for, left is going to be the left, up, down, left, right. My button 1 is going to be left control, button 2 left alt, button 3 space bar, button 4 left shift. So it's basically all the keyboard commands for an iPack that you want to associate to joystick 1. And I use default MAME setup. So for instance, joystick 2 is the same thing. This is my up, down, left, right for joystick 2, and my button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc., etc. So basically, that, I'm gonna close this out. That application, when I hit enable controller, and I'm going to show you that right now, what it actually does. The enable controller will start device, which is my virtual joystick driver, which is right here, these two right here, and enables those. And then it starts the Vjoy application, and that'll exit. When I disable it, this disables it. So this will disable virtual controller 1 and Vjoy virtual controller number 2, and then it will tell Vjoy, the application, to exit. Now, these are currently enabled and the application is currently running right now, which is this application right here. If I disable that with this disable controller, first thing it'll do is it'll disable those virtual game controllers, and Vjoy will disappear because it'll stop the actual application itself. So what I do is, before the game loads, I run a pre-script to enable the virtual controllers for like Street Fighter V or Mortal Kombat X. The game will run, and it will work with the virtual controllers. And when the game is finished, and when I exit the game, it disables the controls again so they don't interfere with anything else. Because understand, you're using the virtual controllers themselves to use it for other games for, basically keyboard input. When you hit up, it's supposed to hit the up key, not Xbox 360, so not virtual controllers up. So here's the deal now. Now that you have the virtual controllers enabled, and let me show you here. Now let me enable these again. It's going to come back over here and re-enable these two. I'm going to, you also need a second application. You need to tell it that these HID compliant game controllers are Xbox 360 controllers. So let me see here. Let me go into my arcade I'm going to use Street Fighter V as an example here. But it will pretty much. So the second application needs to be in the executable directory. So since I'm using Street Fighter V as an example, I boot Street Fighter V from the binaries Win64 directory. So here's Street Fighter V, and here's x360ce is what I use. So you can download this. This goes into every directory that your executables in. You only need to run it once to define what the keys do. So for instance, so this is my virtual controller now. My virtual buttons are enabled on the x360 controller emulator. So button 7 or button 1 or whatnot, you'll see my D-pad is set for whichever. So I can actually hit the button I want to use. So for instance here, let me show you. I go over here, since the virtual controller is enabled, I'm going to use button 2 as my Y. So let me get rid of this here. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go tell it to record. And I'm going to go over here and hit my button 2. And it's going to set it in there as the controller used for the Y button. So again, I'll do this again. Let me empty this out. Now, Y button's obviously the top here. For the Y button, I'm going to hit record. I'm going to hit the button, number 2. That's the button I want to be my Y on the Xbox 360 controller. After I'm done with this, I just hit the save, and it will save this X input 1.3.dll. As long as this file is in the same directory as your executable will use this file for all input, and this file points to your virtual joysticks. So that's how you get it. I'm going to show you how it's done. So you probably had a couple questions regarding executables here and how you start things. So let me go back to Arcade here. So obviously you start all your applications with Rocket Launcher. So you're going to go to the Rocket Launcher modules, and that Street Fighter V I use out of my PC game, or PC Fighters. So we're going to edit that INI file here. So since it's under PC game directory, it uses PC Launcher to launch the PC game. If it were MAME, it would be, MAME. So this one is for PC fighting games. So if I edit this, you're going to see the preload. So the preload, here's my application. Well, this one's using Super Street Fighter. Let me go to Street Fighter V. Alright, so here's Street Fighter V. So pre-launch, it loads up Enable Controller. I'm going to explain why it's an exe and not a batch file. But post-exit, it'll disable the controller on exit. And this hide console command hides the actual batch file from appearing on the screen when it runs. I have a program to change batch files to executables. That'll allow you to run the batch file as an admin, and you need to be able to run the batch file as an admin for it to disable virtual drivers on the fly. So therefore, since I run it as an admin under the executable, it'll do that. So I do this on the pre and the post launch of the game. So it enables it before the game, disables it after the game's done. So I'm going to actually show you this in action here. So let me go over here and load up my Hyperspin. Let me get rid of all this stuff. Alright, so right now the joysticks are set up as your regular iPack joysticks. So I'm going to go to my PC games. And we're going to go to fighting games. And now we're going to load up Street Fighter V. So right now, these are your regular iPac keyboard commanded associated, buttons. When I hit play, it's going to load the pre-script. You're going to hear a ding from the system itself. That means that it's now enabled. So now these are not keyboard controlled, these are joystick. These are Xbox 360 controls. And this can be done with any game besides Street Fighter. As long as you get the pre and the post batch file loaded up, you can use it for any game. And as long as you have that x360ce in the actual executable directory, it'll work as a controller. So anybody that has played Street Fighter knows that there's no two-player, second player controls on a keyboard. So therefore, I'm going to show you that it's working. So if I go over here to proceed to match, and then I come over here, and the nice thing about this is you can hit multiple keys at the same time. There's no issues. Well, I'll show you obviously when the game begins. Let me start here.
Round one. Fight.
So, obviously I can jump. I gotta reset everything, but yeah, I probably hit one of the keys when I was configuring, but yeah, normally this is all working without any issues and such. The low, medium, hard punch, low, medium, hard kick, it's all associated to the actual keyboard command. So let me exit this. When I exit, it stops the script. Actually, I gotta exit with this. Now, Vjoy doesn't get along happily with other drivers, other keyboard command to joystick drivers. So like X-Patter or anything else, it's not very happy with. So those need to be unloaded beforehand, if there's any way. But yeah, I mean, once you get it working, it's pretty awesome. So Mortal Kombat 5, I could get it set up for joystick. And sometimes it's just easier to use the virtual joystick than it is to configure keyboard use for fighting games and stuff like that. This one takes a little while to load. But I'll have a I get a small document written up that I can give you links to all the software that needs to get downloaded if anybody wants to try this themselves. Like I said, this one takes a long time. I'm not entirely sure why, but there we go. You can associate this with either the analog left stick or the D-pad. It's up to you. Most fighters use like D-pad. Other games will use analog. But see how it says use the enter button. I would have the start button on my X360 Virtual, so that should work as well. Oh, there we go. One of those is. So press the A button. But basically I have this set up Xbox 360. You start and select your XY, sorry, AB and XY, the shoulder buttons, and the other shoulder buttons are on this one, and I get this guy down here as another shoulder button in case I need it. But I can assign these buttons to whatever you put. The nice thing about the x360ce is you can assign the buttons per game. So however you want to do it for that personal game, you can do it. But yeah, this is anyway, I'm not gonna play this, but yeah, that's pretty much how it's all set up. I've set it up a few different ways for PC games. I've set these guys 1 and 2 for virtual joysticks, and I've set these 2 in the corner just as regular keyboard joysticks. Another thing you need to note that I almost forgot to mention, let me just exit out of here. When you do load the virtual joysticks, you need to make sure you have pass-through shut off. So I'm gonna re-enable this really quick. That should enable that back. That'll load the application Vjoy. Alright, this right here, block keys, make sure you have that set. And the reason for that is, if you don't have that checked, it's going to send the keyboard command anyway, regardless. So if you won't press button, one of your buttons that's associated to spacebar, it's gonna send that space bar to the system. So you're not only you're getting the control for the virtual button 3, but you're also getting the space bar sent as well. You want to make sure that's definitely enabled to block keys. Once that's enabled as block key, you will not be able to use the key space bar or left alt or left control or whatever, Z or X or anything else in the game. So if you have anything that you have to type text in, those are going to be disabled once that's set up. Again, I'm going to set this in a little document so people can get an idea. If they have any questions, they can ask in the thread. Thank you.